Here's how to tell if the vendors or the independent contractors that you're working with are killing your business. I was sitting in a board of directors meeting years ago, and I heard this great analogy. It was about how kings used to rule over 1,000 years ago, and how the way they grew their kingdom is really very similar to how we grow companies today. So similar that we could look at the strategies that worked back then to help them grow, and also look at the weaknesses that consistently destroyed a king. And those strategies and weaknesses are almost identical to what grows businesses today. And one of my favorite examples is this. Kings were almost always looking to increase their power. And in order to increase their power, they had to increase the amount of land that they owned. And there were really two main ways that kings were able to increase the amount of land that they owned. And in business, that would kind of be equal to the amount of market share that we own. Or if you're in a really smaller company, then it would be just the amount of sales that you make. And the two ways that kings were able to expand was either by increasing the size of their own army, or by hiring mercenaries that would come in and help them to take over more land. And in business today, that would be like hiring more in-house salespeople as our army, or hiring vendors like mercenaries to go out there and help us get more sales. And there's a lot of very famous examples throughout history of both of those things. But there's also a very clear track record that kings that hired mercenaries quickly expanded the amount of land that they owned, but it almost always made them weaker. Meaning every king that used mercenaries and that allowed those mercenaries to remain on their kingdom after they expanded, every one of those kings ended up having a very weak ruling, or they were often dethroned. As opposed to kings that built their own army, or that used mercenaries as temporary pawns and then had a strategy for rapidly getting those mercenaries off of their territory so that their own army could take over. And the kings really wanted the mercenaries out of their territory for four main reasons. And if a king didn't get the mercenary off their land quickly, they eventually lost their kingdom. And you're about to see very similar things between this and how you might feel about the vendors that you work with. The four reasons why kings wanted mercenaries off their land was, first, because mercenaries are never loyal to anybody except for themselves. And second, they're only by your side as long as you're the highest payer. And as soon as the pay stops for whatever reason, they leave or they turn on you. And third, mercenaries felt this kinship to the land that they helped acquire. So they felt like they owned rights to that land, which made it much harder to get them the heck off of it. And the last reason is that when mercenaries go into a land to overtake it, they only know how to do it using whatever strategies they were brought up with, like raping and killing and pillaging, which is normally not in alignment with the peaceful values that keep a kingdom strong. And all of that, if you really think about it, is super similar to business today. When we want to grow, but we don't have enough employees to support that growth, maybe it's a call center that you don't have, or a sales team that you don't have, or a marketing team, or a customer support team, whatever it is, most companies look to an agency or to vendors who do this for a living, and they hire them. And then those vendors come in, but they're only focused on their own growth. And they're only around as long as you're the highest payer. And they do not live by the same values that your company lives by. And they'll often do things to look good. So let's say, for example, if they're salespeople, most of the time they'll go out there and overpromise just to make a sale, which often hurts your brand. And if they're marketing people, they might go out there and put ads out there that are built just to generate a lot of clicks, which cost you money as a company, but sometimes don't lead to sales. And if they're customer support, then they'll probably follow the script that you give them, or maybe they'll even come with their own script, but they'll never care about your callers like you would. So they'll never save a sale or help your customers feel, connected to your brand. To grow a business, you have to remember that vendors are tools, and we could use them during times of growth when we don't have enough employees. But to grow an 8 or 9-figure brand, we need to surround ourselves with people who will go to war with us, who will stick with us when times get a little bit tough because they see the big picture. And those are the people who will stay late. And those are the people who will support the rest of your team. And those are the people who will care more about your customers and the company brand than they do about making just another sale. Our responsibility as founders is to grow in an honest, ethical, moral, legal way every single year, if not every quarter or every single month. And to do that, one of the most important uses of our time is to develop people on our team, our employees, people who live our values, who respect us, who respect our company, who respect our products and our mission, and most importantly, they respect our environment, which includes our customers and our prospects and the rest of our team. And it's not difficult to do that, but one thing that makes it infinitely harder is when you allow vendors to stay on your land too long, because then you become reliant on somebody else's company and on somebody else's values and somebody else's schedule, and you're no longer in control of your company's future. Now, in my companies, for C players like a COO or a CTO or a CFO or a CMO or whatever it is, we always hire people as independent contractors first for 6 months to a year. And during that time, we use that to get to know if they're a good fit and for them to get to know if we're a good fit for them. Because these are highly skilled people with long track records of success doing exactly what we need done to get our company to the next level. So we start with them as contractors just to see if there's a fit. Then we either hire them full-time as employees or we end the contract and we get them off our land. And for almost every non-C-level position, if we work with a vendor, then we work with them for a maximum of 3 months. And during that time, they have 3 main jobs, and they must do all 3 of these things. Most companies get it wrong, and they think they're just hiring a vendor to do one thing. They need to do 3 in order to help us grow. The first is they need to do whatever it is that they're hired for. So if we hire a contractor to be a salesperson, then their responsibility is to hit sales numbers. But second, they need to document everything they're doing so that we have a clear, simple piece of paper that shows us exactly what they're doing to get the results they're getting for us. And the third thing they need to do is to train somebody on our team to take over for them, and to train them so well that our team gets the same results that those contractors are getting for us using the document that's being developed. Doing that prevents us from being reliant on vendors, plus it builds up our own team. And it's not uncommon for us to go out there and maybe hire a salesperson, for example. And then when there's a new sales process that we want to add to our company, we locate and we hire the best vendors who know that process inside and out. And they come in and they implement it live while my salespeople watch over their shoulder and take notes and get trained by them with the goal of mastering that new skill in 3 months or less. Most vendors are hired in our companies for 3 months. And during that time, we meet with them daily to make sure they're hitting the targets that they need to hit, that they're updating the processes that we have, the document, and that they're training our team to meet expectations within 3 months. And if at any time we find out that they are not living up to the expectations that we set when we first met, then we release them. And that's written inside of every single vendor contract that we get involved with, because at no time should you ever give control to a vendor, including locking yourself into a contract that could hurt your company. You have a responsibility to your company, to your employees, to your partners, to your customers, to your prospects, and to your family to never sign an agreement with a vendor that takes control out of your hands for the most important revenue generating asset that you have, which is your company. Listen, I know this is a lot, but growing a company is not difficult when you know how to do it. I have a personal portfolio of 12 companies, and I've bought and sold companies, and I have a list of successful investments in other companies, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I have a lot of scars from the mistakes that I learned along the way. But I promise you, if you learn from your mistakes, it gets significantly easier to build larger and larger companies, especially if your goal is to go from 7 to either 8 or 9 figures. And if you have a business that's doing at least $1 million now and you want to 10 or 20x that over the next 12 to 24 months, then you need to be part of a group like Club 28 or even the Next Level Project if you can't afford Club 28. And you could see if there's openings in those programs at chrisguerriero.com. Now, if you got value from this and you want more information on how to get your business into the 8 or 9 figure range, do me a favor and subscribe, because that'll tell me that you like this topic so that I know to put more information out there like this. And comment if you have questions. I'll see you on the next video.